Hi guys, welcome to Central Vineyard Youth this Sunday. My name is Thea and I am part of the team based at our Northampton site. Today we're going to be carrying on our series of Know Your Enemy. We have already looked at the truth about lies and the truth about evil. But today we're going to be digging a little bit deeper into this theme, into how the enemy lies and tricks us and what we can do to protect ourselves from it. Now, if you're new to church or Christianity, then you might think some of what we're covering today seems a little bit intense, but please stick with us. And if you have any questions and you want to talk further, then please connect with us on our social media platforms or go to the church website and find us that way. I wonder, has anyone ever asked you the question, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life? Hopefully you'll get to do something that you love. Now, I have a friend who absolutely loves board games. And so he decided he wanted to combine his love of board games with his business, with his job. And so he set up a place called Tiny Rick's Cafe in Liverpool, where if you ever get a chance to go, you will find huge amounts of breakfast cereals and the biggest kind of stock you have ever seen of board games. And you can go, obviously you have to pay, and eat as much cereal as you want and play some incredible games. I wonder, do you like games as much as that? Do you play board games with your family? Have you been playing more board games in this season because we've been stuck inside and at home more? Maybe if I was to come to your house, you could show me all the board games that you've got in your cupboard under the stairs. Maybe you've got some of those classic family favourites like Monopoly or Cluedo or Guess Who. Perhaps you've got some of the more unusual games like Catan or Exploding Kittens. Perhaps you like to keep things simple with Double or Connect 4. Well, I love board games and I'm looking forward to playing some with my family soon when I get to see them. And I'm hoping that we will be able to play probably my favourite game ever, which is called Risk. I don't know if you've ever played Risk, but Risk is a strategy game and it's played on a board that has a map of the world on it. Each player has a whole load of armies of playing pieces, and that's what you use to capture the rest of the territories that belong to other players. You roll the dice, and the aim of the game is to occupy every other country or territory on the board by eliminating all the other players until there is nobody left on the whole of the board, the whole of the world, apart from you and your armies. And at that point, you are the winner, my friend. You are ruler, conqueror of all. You have world domination. Now, I believe that the devil and God also want to rule and reign and be in control of the whole world. Both of them want world domination. And as a Christian, I believe in God and I believe in the devil. And some of you might think, whoa, I didn't realise that's true. Well, let me just explain that a bit more, because we do think of them as different things. So for a Christian, we believe in, we worship God. But with the devil, we don't love him, we don't worship him, but we do believe in him. We believe in him in the sense that we believe he is real and that he exists and that he is currently causing havoc and pain across the whole of the world. Because he wants to rule, he wants to reign, he wants world domination. Now, the truth is that ultimately, God is bigger and stronger than the devil and has already won the battle. God is ultimately the king of the world, and he's a type of king who loves us and rules with justice and mercy. And one day he's going to restore the world fully, and the kingdom of God will come, and people who love and follow Jesus will worship him. And there will be no more pain, and there will be no more death, and there will be no more sickness, no more brokenness. But currently, Our world is not like that, is it? Our world has got darkness. Our world has got pain. It's got suffering. It's got brokenness. And that is because the devil is currently doing all he can to cause those things. It is under the influence of the devil. Now, many people, Christians included, don't always realise this. They don't know how, and they don't know how much of the world is being shaped and controlled by the devil. Paul, the apostle, wrote nearly all of the New Testament, and we're going to turn to his letter to the Ephesians, to chapter 6, and read just 2 verses this morning. In the NIV, the New International Version, in Ephesians 6, verse 10 to 12, it says this: "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty armour. Put on the full armour of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Now, these 2 verses show that we are in a struggle, that we are in a battle, that we are in a fight. But actually, our fight isn't ultimately against humans, because it said it's not against flesh and blood. So if it's not flesh and blood and it's not human, what is it? Well, as we read on, we see that it is against the spiritual forces of evil. It's a spiritual fight that we are in. You know, the devil, as I've said before, has limited power and influence in this world. But as we've heard in the previous sessions before, he wants to kill, he wants to destroy, and he's the father of lies. But he is fighting as hard as he can to bring as much destruction before God fully brings his kingdom in. Therefore, it's really important that we understand the devil's schemes, the devil's battle plan, his warfare, his tactics, so that when we are attacked, we can stand firm and we can be protected and we can overcome it. So we are in a war. Now, the problem is, when we think about war, most of us probably think of the images that we see in movies, the images that we might see in a history textbook, or on Call of Duty. We might think of tanks or planes dropping bombs. We might think of soldiers running with guns or with swords towards their enemies and having hand-to-hand combat. This type of war is a very physical war, and it's probably the main images that we think of when we think of war. But we aren't in a physical war with the devil. We are in a different type of war. Now, in the world, there are lots of wars that continue on. But one of the wars that perhaps we're not always aware of is a type of war that isn't physical, but is what I would call an information war. It's where criminals or governments or organisations gather as much information and data on other countries or other businesses or other individuals, so that they can use that information to fight, to influence, to make decisions, to twist politics, to twist outcomes of scenarios, because information is really powerful. Now, not all of what we read, not all of what we see is truth. Information can be twisted. Information can be fake. It can have half truths. So we read and we watch this stuff and we can be misinformed. And that is the sort of war that the devil uses more than anything else to trip us up. And today I want to help you identify some of those misinformations that the devil uses. To put it simply, the lies that he tells, or the lies that he uses to try and influence your life. One lie that we've already exposed today is the lie that the devil isn't real. We can see when we read the Bible that the devil is real, but we can also look around the world and see that there is so much evil happening in the world and brokenness that the devil is real. Now, there are two other bits of misinformation when it comes to the very basics of understanding who the devil is and what he's like that I'd like to clear up before we finish today. First is that we can just brush him off. We don't take it very seriously. We think of the devil a bit of a cartoon character that has horns and dresses in red and carries a pitchfork and is surrounded by fire. We get sucked into the lie that the devil and the dark spiritual forces are all just a bit silly, all a bit of a harmless fun. You know, this is most obvious when we look at Halloween, when people dress up and celebrate these dark things. The truth is the devil isn't cute. The devil isn't a funny little red emoji or meme. He is real and he is evil, and he has the power to cause pain and suffering and brokenness. So it's so important that we don't believe the lie that it's all a bit of fun and it's nothing serious. I want to encourage you to celebrate light and life, not darkness. Another lie, which is almost the opposite of not really thinking much about the devil or worrying about him and just sort of poo-pooing the idea, is the opposite extreme of that. That the devil is this huge, scary monster creature that actually is so evil that you know, we constantly live in fear of him. And actually we know that we would never be tricked or fooled by him, because if something that evil and that awful turned up, we would just know it was evil, be so scared and run away that he couldn't impact us. That's not completely true. You see, the devil is scary and he is a bit of a monster in the sense that he's evil. But actually the devil is also very crafty. He's very sneaky, and he uses dark forces in the world that are not so easy to spot. It's like if you were out and about with your mates and in the park and some big scary monster just arrived, you'd all scream and run away, wouldn't you? You wouldn't stay there and be like, oh, hi, yeah, how you doing, Mr. Monster? So we run away from something that's really scary and obviously evil. But if we're hanging out in the park and somebody comes who's friends with somebody else, we might let them join our group and we might hang out with them a while. And it might not be until weeks or months later that we realise that this person who seemed to be our friend actually has bad intentions and maybe wants to introduce us into things like drugs or something else that is not good for us. But in that situation, because they don't look scary, they don't look like a monster, they don't look evil, because they're maybe a similar age to us and understand us and we've hung out with them for ages, we kind of get into this false sense of security that this person can be our friend. And it isn't to the point until they might, I don't know, when we're out in the park one day say, hey, I've got this, do you want to try it? That we realise that perhaps this person doesn't necessarily want the best for us. Now, in that situation, it's quite difficult to say no. And many people, unfortunately, get dragged into things that they perhaps don't want to because they've been influenced by someone who they think of as their friend. You don't see the bad thing because it's hidden, it's not scary, it's not a monster. It's coming from someone that you trust. It's coming from someone who you've had a real laugh with, who you've hung out with. And that's the thing, it's much easier to get caught up into something bad or something dark than we often realise, because it's hidden or it's twisted. It's not obvious. And sometimes, because it's good and it makes us happy, we think it must be good. But we need to be careful and understand that not everything that looks good or even makes us feel happy is good. It might actually be part of the devil's campaign to try and bring you down. It might be part of his scheme to try and drag you down a path where you will be involved in pain, where you will be broken. So please be careful. And as we finish today, I've been thinking about what areas in your life, in young people's life, the devil really wants to try and twist the truth, to manipulate, what fake information he wants you to believe so that you don't have the best relationship with Jesus. And I want to address 4 of them really, really quickly. The first is this lie. I think the devil wants you to believe that you're young and that you have all the time in the world and that you don't need to worry about these things. Now, there's an element of truth in that. You are young, but let me tell you that life speeds up, and the older you get, the faster it goes. And do you know what? You might be at school now, but in a few years you'll be in college and it will go like that. You might be really thinking about going to university, but you know what? Like that, you'll have finished. Time goes so fast. None of us know how long we have. But I want you to be wise with what you do with your life and how much time you give things. I want to make sure you think about what really matters in the long term. What can and should you be investing in now for later? What should you be doing with your time now that's going to be good for you in the future? The second lie, I think, is this, that Christianity and faith is all about the spiritual world and the spiritual self. Now, this is a half-truth because Christianity is spiritual, but our faith in Jesus, it impacts the world that we live in now. It isn't just some unseen, mystical, heavenly realm. Our faith, our belief in Jesus, it's physical and it's spiritual because it affects our body and it affects our soul. Therefore, whatever you see, you hear, you touch, you smell, you taste, all of that will have an impact. It will impact your health, your heart, your mind, your emotions, your beliefs. So it's really important that you look after your body and you look after your soul because you are physical and spiritual. The lie is it's all spiritual. It's not all spiritual. It's physical and spiritual. So make sure that you put good stuff in, that you watch good stuff, that you read good stuff, that you eat good stuff. Because if you put good stuff in, then good stuff will come out. Or perhaps better still, if you put God stuff in, God stuff will come out. The third lie I believe that the devil wants you to believe is that prayer and worship aren't powerful. The devil tricks us and undermines us to think that prayer and worship are not important and they are not powerful. That's a lie. Worship and prayer are powerful. They bring about change. Worship and prayer changes us and it changes the situations around us. But the truth is, isn't it, that there are times when we know we should pray about something, but it's just too hard to pray. We don't have the emotional capacity. We don't know what we should pray. We don't know how we should pray. Now, in this situation, I think that there's something that you can do to help you, and that is to use worship, to put on some worship music that is going to lift you and put you in a positive place. It's very easy when perhaps we're feeling a little bit down or hurt even to listen to music that helps us feel the same as we do now. I remember as a teenager when I was feeling sad and lonely that no one wanted to date me, I would listen to some really awful sad love songs that really did not help me. It just made me feel worse because music is really powerful and musical worship is really powerful. So when you're in a place that's difficult, I encourage you to put on some worship that tells you about God's goodness, that tells you about how he thinks about you, that he's a good, good father, or that he is powerful. And that will lift you, that will lift your soul, that will lift your spirit, and it will help you focus on those positive things. And perhaps when you're in that place, then you'll be able to feel like you can talk and you can pray. But the truth is that prayer and worship are powerful. Now, the last thing that I want to say is pretty serious, but I actually think this is the biggest and most dangerous lie that the devil tries to convince young people of. And it makes me really mad, because if you believe this lie, it can have such a negative impact on your life. And it is a big, big lie. And this is it. I believe the devil wants you to think that you are not important and that you're nobody. This is such complete and utter rubbish. You are incredibly important. God thinks you are amazing. God thinks you are special. He loves you. He wants your life to be full of good things. You know, you are unique. You are special. You are so valuable. You are irreplaceable. Your life matters. You matter. If you take nothing else away from this talk today, take away the truth that you are important, that you are loved, that you are valuable, that your life matters, and that you matter. Amen.